Every time you fear being judged, you're giving away your power to people who really don't matter. You are not living your true life. You're performing a version that you think some other audience wants to see. You become almost a mosaic of people's opinion rather than your coherent, authentic self. You don't actually know what you like or what you want or what you believe, only what's acceptable. You have to ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? If you can't answer that question, you're living someone else's life. Welcome to Done Pretending, the podcast where healing meets authentic living. I am your host, Susan Houston, storyteller, mentor, and believer in the power of truth to set us free. This is your sanctuary for the soul, a safe space where we peel back the layers of judgment and fear to uncover the beauty of living real. Each week, you'll hear stories of courage, resilience, and transformation that remind you it's never too late to become who you were created to be. Hey, everyone. I'm really glad to have you back. And today we are going to talk about the cost of judgment. Now, some people say, "Oh, what do you mean the cost of judgment?" Judgment can affect you both mentally and physically. You see, both the fear of being judged and the act of judging others has consequences on us. Every time you judge someone, you're actually thinking about your own fears more often than not. And then every time you fear being judged, you're giving away your power to ghosts or to people who really don't matter. Think about that for a second. How many decisions have you made this week, not based on what you actually wanted, but what you thought someone might think about it? Maybe it was something about what you wore or what you said or an opportunity that you passed on in your business because you thought, oh, my team is going to think I'm absolutely crazy for doing that. Yeah, they might, but it might just be the best thing. So, we are going to break down exactly why judgment has that power over us, both mentally and physically. But most importantly, I'm going to give you some concrete steps that will get you on the right path to breaking free and to be done pretending. So, let's dive in. Judgment operates like a two-sided sword, double-edged sword, they call it. On one side, we project judgment outward. We size each other up. We decide mental hierarchies in our brain, who's stronger, who's not, who's more important sitting around the table, who's not. And we construct stories about who deserves what. On the other hand, we live in perpetual fear of people judging us, of being weighed, measured, and found. So here's what most people don't realize. People out there, they don't have the energy or the time to be putting that much into judging you, at least the part that we say in our brains. They are more concerned about protecting themselves and worrying about what everybody thinks of them. Most of their judgments are not as harsh as we think. Now, that's not always true, and we'll get into that. But there is a cost to living judged. When you constantly fear judgment, you make yourself small. You put on a mask and you do things to make yourself feel safer. You edit the words that you say mid sentence. You create this life for an imaginary audience. And you abandon your dreams because they just seem unrealistic or maybe they're embarrassing. You are not living your true life. You're performing a version that you think some other audience wants to see. Most people could care less, but there's also a cost to judging others. Now, before you text me and tell me, Susan, I am not a judgmental person, I believe you. But judgment is in our DNA. It is how we decide if we need to be flight or fight mode, right? We create these walls of judgment around us so that we stay safe. We let go of curiosity, and it also stunts our growth. You miss the incredible nuances of people's stories when you make judgments about them because you stop asking them questions. You don't understand their whole circumstances. And that just really diminishes our connections in humanity. Worse, chronic judgment towards others, it operates almost like on a scoring system. And when you believe that is how the world operates, it means that you're always in fear of falling short on that scoring system. So there is definitely a mental and an emotional toll. Let's get specific, okay? First, it's going to give you a different self view. You become almost a mosaic of people's opinion rather than your coherent, authentic self. You don't actually know what you like or what you want or what you believe, only what's acceptable. I'll give you an example of this. A few years ago, a really good friend of mine said, "Hey, what's your top 10 places to go?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "You know, your bucket list. Where do you want to travel to?" We created a bucket list of the top 10 places, and every year we try and go to one of those. And I said, "I don't know. Maybe Hawaii?" And she just looked at me. She goes, "That's thinking pretty small, Susan. Don't you want to travel the world?" And I said, "Well, sure." And the reason I couldn't do it is because I had never allowed myself to decide what was important to me. I was listening to the other people around me and what they wanted. And I was all about making them happy first because that kept me safe. It kept the boat level, status quo. And what it does is it really creates a personal identity crisis. You have to ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? If you can't answer that question, you're living someone else's life. It can also cause chronic anxiety because your nervous system is in constant threat decision mode. You scan every room and every situation for disapproval, and you replay conversations searching for evidence of approval or disapproval, and you anticipate criticism that hasn't even happened yet. This can lead to when your self view is somebody else. I call it imposter syndrome, or a lot of people do. It's based on external validation. So you've heard of this term before, and I have experienced it in my own business. I will sit in a room and I will look around me and think, oh my gosh, these people are so accomplished. They're so well educated. I don't deserve to be here. That's not true. I have experience, I have my own education, and my point really does matter. But that took me a while to get there. So there's also a physical cost. Now, you might think that, oh, all of this is just in your head. You need to think again. The fear of judgment, it will manifest in your body in very real and very damaging ways. The chronic stress response is living under constant judgment, and it activates your hormones. You've heard of your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Well, over time, when these are activated constantly, it causes a weakened immune system. You'll have digestive issues, headaches, muscle tension, and even more inflammation. And your body will literally start breaking down from the ongoing threat perception. This one is true for many of us, body image issues. When you internalize judgments about your appearance, you stop seeing your actual body. You see the criticized version. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. I've got the wrong features. I've got wrinkles when I didn't used to have wrinkles. This can spiral. This can spiral into eating disorders or body dysmorphia or complete avoidance of mirrors and photos. And, you've heard we talk about playing small, but there really is something about physical shrinking. People will literally make themselves smaller. They're going to start hunching their shoulders, casting their neck down, their downcast eyes. They talk in a quieter voice. They have minimized gestures. They protect themselves like this. This collapse posture, it becomes habitual. And what it does is when you're like this, you can't breathe properly. Your circulation gets pent up, gets constricted, and even your digestive function has problems. Your body will learn to apologize for existing. We're going to dive into more physical problems from this later on, but I think it's important to understand why we stay stuck in this mode. Because if judgments are causing all of this damage, why don't we try and change it? Why don't we try and overcome it? This gets a little interesting. And the first time that I started doing research on this, it hit home and it made me a little uncomfortable. First, it provides a perfect excuse. Fear of judgment is the ultimate get out of jail free card. You see, I would do that, but people are going to judge me. So, by allowing yourself to say that and believe that, allows you to not try something because your real fear in that is you might fail. Judgment fear protects your fantasy self and it protects the person that you could be if the world were kinder, if you didn't have to worry about what other people thought. Overcoming it, though, it means confronting who you actually are. You've created this mask, you've created this imaginary theatrical persona, but what are you really capable of? That can be scary because when I started letting down that guard, I realized that my calling was to something a whole lot greater than what I was doing. And I was really good at what I was doing, but I had a bigger purpose. And that in itself was huge, huge fear. The other reason we don't like to change is it's familiar. We all create habits for ourselves. We eat the same things in the mornings, we drive the same route to work. There's a strange comfort about familiar patterns, and there's comfort in familiar pain. We're used to it. So we've almost just internalized it that it's normal. It feels safer than the freedom you don't have. It also it keeps you connected. So fear of judgment often functions as a social glue. It keeps you aligned with your family values or your community or church's expectations. If you stopped caring what people really thought, would your parents see you the same way? Would your friends see you the same way? Would they still want to be your friend? So, this is a real risk. And sometimes that fear of judgment is actually fear of isolation in disguise. It also avoids responsibility. As long as judgment is the problem, other people are the problem. You get to play the victim. Now, you've heard of a victim mentality. I would have never thought that I had a victim mentality. But by leaning on worrying about the judgment from other people, I got to be the victim. If you don't overcome that fear of judgment and don't pursue your dreams, you'd have to admit that it's okay because I'm more worried about what other people think. But what if you're sacrificing your mental health and your physical well-being just for growth? Ghosts. The tragedy is that the judgment shaping us are often outdated and their projection from others people's insecurities, and they're often misunderstood. So, let's give you a couple of concrete action steps that you can take. Now, last time we talked about one simple one, which was to go out and do something that makes you uncomfortable. Do one scary thing last week. I want you to reply, put in the comments something that you did. Did you wear a colorful shirt? And if you haven't done this, I do want you to do it. And it can be ridiculously small. Maybe it's something as simple as wearing a really bright color nail polish if you're a woman. Or for a guy, I know some guys that will never wear shorts, because they're just not, have always grown up wearing pants or jeans. It could be, if you're in a group, just share an unpopular opinion that you have. Like, I live in Los Angeles, and I could say something like, man, that Rams team really sucks this year. No, I don't actually believe that. I'm a Rams fan and a Chiefs fan. But you can also post something on social media. Get vulnerable, get real. Don't make sure your makeup's perfect and your hair's perfect. Be vulnerable. And the goal here, it's not to be reckless, it's to build evidence that being judged, why it's even being judged, it's all survivable. And the repetition, small repetitions, help change our brain pathways. It's not taking a huge step, it's small, consistent actions. And what that's going to do, it's just going to keep building and building on itself until you realize, hey, it's okay if I am my true self. And this won't happen overnight. It didn't for me. But I can tell you that being on the other side of this is really freeing. Not only is it freeing, it's exciting because I'm not afraid to go after things that I really want to do now. And at this point, there will be people who may not think that I'm doing the right thing or she shouldn't be doing that. That's okay because I know this is really what is inside of me, what I'm supposed to be doing. So here's another one. We want you to actually do some of this work. So you need to understand that judgment, recognizing judgment, it's recognizing it for what it is, which it's a genuine survival mechanism that's just gone haywire in today's world. Our brains have evolved to make quick assessments, threat or safety, friend or foe. But we've turned this into a constant background hum. And that evaluation that serves it is neither wisdom or peace. So, overcoming judgment does not mean abandoning your discernment. It's very important that you know your values, base everything that you do on your values, because if you are honest about your values, it will help you find your true self. You have to think, instead of worrying about what other people's opinions might be, you need to replace what will they think with what do I actually want? When you free yourself from the tyranny of this judgment, something remarkable happens and you become the real you. You're not perfect. None of us ever will be, but you are genuine. And not everybody is going to like the new you because you are going to be different. And the more you become authentic, they get scared because that forces them to be, ooh, maybe I'm not being authentic. They see you making these changes and it sparks something inside of them that isn't sitting right. Don't be surprised at that. So, this version of you needs to be unedited, unapologetic, but it's always more powerful than any performance that you could ever be. So, in closing, I've got homework for you. We talked last week about starting a judgment journal. Well, I want you to pick one small, brave thing to do this week. And the next time someone criticizes you, I want you to run it through a 3-part filter. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start. If you did it once this next week and then maybe twice the following week, you have doubled your progress. Life that you're living while you wait for someone else's approval, that's not your real life. And I don't think that's actually what you want. So I am going to attach to the notes a month-long judgment journal. You can use this to write a judgment that you've received from somebody else, or you can also write something that you did that was scary for you. And did somebody react to that differently? So, next week, we're going to talk about more of the reasons why what's going to happen if I do change. What if the people around me don't like me anymore? That's really scary. And a lot of times that is exactly what holds people back. I'm here to tell you, though, that the people that truly love you, the people that are your true friends, they're going to notice a difference, but they're also more curious than the average person out on the street who doesn't matter. So, your true people in your life are going to be there to support you. And I am too. If you think you have a story to share, I want you to be sure and get a hold of me. My link is in the show notes, or my email is susan@susan-houston.com. Thank you so much, you guys. I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me on Done Pretending, where healing meets authentic living. If today's conversation moved you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. Your words help this message reach more hearts around the world. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story has the power to set others free.